Good day. I'm Mike James, and this is Parkitect. Welcome back, everybody. I really appreciate you joining me today. On the right, you'll see a list of my mods. There is one mod not listed on that, and that is Shy Guys Building Set number 2, which just came out while I was making this video. And we're coming to Steam. Have you heard the news? May 5th, Parkitect is going to be on Steam. Still early access, but we are out of pre-alpha. We're now into alpha. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I can tell you right now that it is an exciting time to be playing this game. If you want to pick it up and you know you're going to get it, go ahead and get it now, because when it goes on Steam, it's going to go up by just a couple dollars. I think it's like $17 is what they said, somewhere around there, instead of the $15 it is now. But, you know, if you want to wait for it to get on Steam, go right ahead. It's not going to cost you that much more. I've got a great show for you today. I'm going to show you 2 mini coaster or kiddie rides with full scenery, and then a building, an Emporium or a kid's shop, where you can buy food and everything. It's going to be a little bit of a long video, but we'll get through it, and I think you'll enjoy it. So hang on tight. Let's get right into it. All right, here we are. First, we're going to build a mini coaster. Now, when I started this coaster, mini coasters kind of frustrate me. And they frustrate me because I wanted to put this kiddie ride. If you notice, all the rides down along this path are basically kids' rides. They're not real intense. We've got the teacups and the merry-go-round and a Ferris wheel and a slide. So this is my kids area, young kids area. And so I wanted to build a coaster for the kids, and that's what these mini coasters are. If you've ever been to a lot of county fairs, have these little mini roller coasters. They're like 30 seconds long. They're not real long. And they're not intense at all, but there's something you can get your kids into. So I wanted to make one for maybe kids aged like 5, 6, that kind of thing, just to get them introduced to roller coasters. And these are very restrictive. You can't go very fast. The drops are really shallow, and you really don't want to make them too long either. So it took me a couple tries to get this right. I also left the lift chain on this one for about half the roller coaster when I started, but I fixed that. And so I got this put together, and I'm going to delete all of it here and start over again, because one of the challenges is to make something that's at least a little bit interesting, but still have it be able to get back to itself in a reasonable amount of time, because the turns aren't, the turns are tight enough, but because the drops are so shallow and the amount of height difference, you have a lot of trouble getting under your own track. So getting it back to the beginning effectively isn't real super easy. We managed to do it here. I just straighten this out and then just do a little side swipe and then curve back around. And it's a nice little roller coaster. I did run into a little bit of an issue though, and it's probably just me, but when I finish this up, I go ahead and I set it up for a test, and the testing came back a little more excitement than I wanted. The excitement rating medium is fine, but it was a pretty high medium. It was in the 39-ish range. And, even sped up, this is sped up 5 times, and you can see the coasters are still not going very fast, but see, it's 39, and that's just too high. So I decided to copy it over, and I put it on the other side of the road and thought maybe I'll use it as a, intermediate coaster for maybe, 8 or 9-year-olds. Now, the game doesn't really support that right now. Everybody's an adult as far as I can tell, but there are people who like all kinds of rides. So I'm going to just pretend that there are little kids that come to this park, and I'm going to make a roller coaster just for them. And that's what this second one is. It is just a very simple, easygoing roller coaster. Now, at first I thought I had left the chain on this entire thing. And it turns out that that's some kind of there's some kind of issue with it where it's staying on there even after I turned it off and it's clicking back on. It doesn't really matter. You could fix it if you want. I'm not even sure if that's really there, if that's just some kind of an artifact. But I decided to go ahead. It doesn't impact the ride at all anyway. The ride doesn't go very fast. And I'm going to make this like a Candyland. Now, this Candyland theme, there's a young man named Luke, not Luke the developer, but another man named Luke. He's from, I want to say the Netherlands. I honestly don't remember where he's from. He's from over Europe way somewhere. I'm in America. And he started out asking a lot of questions on how to mod. And he's made a couple really interesting mods now. This one, when I first saw it, I thought, wow, these things are huge. How am I ever going to use them? But, when I made my roller coaster for the Candyland theme, turns out they're perfect. Now, I wish they were recolorable. Maybe he'll do that in the future. He just started doing these mods a month or so ago, and he went from asking questions, not being able to do any, to making some pretty cool items here. Now, when I made this building to go around the entrance, I wanted to leave it kind of open, but I didn't just want to leave just a blank, path. I wanted to do something. So I did the old stripe trick that we showed you in a previous video, making the walls alternating sides so that you can just color it all at once. And it takes a couple tries to get everything the way I want it, but I didn't put a roof. And the reason I didn't put a roof is because, as I said, I wanted it to be open. I don't want the, kids, if you go into an enclosed area, it can feel more oppressive. So I wanted to leave it very open and friendly. Also, I used a lot of lighter colors when I did this building around it, or this shell of a building around it. You'll notice that as I'm placing these, I haven't colored them yet, but I'm going to. And you'll notice that I changed the colors a couple times on a couple different things. I had an idea what I wanted, but some of the stuff I started to make a little darker, and then I realized that even just a couple shades darker was making the ride look more intimidating. Now, I know, with the AI in the game, I don't think that makes a difference. But that's the great thing about these games is you're making a park the way you want to, and a lot of it is your imagination and what you come up with and what's going to work in your mind as far as what's going to be good. And that's what this is all about. I wanted to make something that I felt a kid would like to ride. Now, the path I did make a little darker because I didn't, there was just too much. I'm using this creamsicle kind of theme, very light oranges. And oranges. That is a word I just used. And you'll notice that as I'm building this, I'm just trying to give it enough detail where it looks good, but not overly cluttered. One thing you will notice about this episode here is this is not a pre-planned episode, as in I didn't build this building and then go and rebuild it for you like I do with a lot of my other shows. Now, this is where I was talking about that dark orange just made it look a little too oppressive, so I made it a nice light color, and it looks so much friendlier that way. So this is I like to call it a stream of consciousness show. You're going to see all the mistakes I make, all the things I do right or wrong, and you can see how my train of thought goes. Now, in general, this is how I do it. I might have a little bit of a plan of what I want, but probably just have a vague idea. All I knew starting out here was I wanted to make a kid's coaster. And the Candyland thing just came to me while I was doing it. I thought, hey, Luke made those mods. Those look pretty cool. And it just works. Now, I'm just finishing up the building here, and I do go ahead and change a couple last little colors. And then we'll get into a little more of the overall theming. Now, the theming is done, but I go ahead here and I put down just a floor covering. I started out doing this one by one. Then I thought, you know what? Let's just make one, save it as a blueprint, and then just, paste it in, and it'll save us a little time. Doesn't save us a lot of time, probably 2-3 minutes, but it was something I wanted to try, and it worked out fine. And I purposely didn't color these ahead of time. You notice a lot of times I don't color these ahead of time because I'm not sure exactly what color I'm going to want them. And it's just as easy to color them after the fact and change the colors as you're going. So on this, I decided this orange, while I'm doing an orange kind of coaster, that orange is just a little too bright. So you'll notice I'm making it just a little lighter. And you should be able to see that on your screen. I can see it in the video here myself. And you could tell it's just a little bit lighter. And yes, I did miss one block right there on the lower right. I'll fix it later. So I like this. Now, because it's a kid's ride, I thought maybe I should put a fence around it. Oh, you'll notice here I'm making a little place for a worker to observe the kids getting in and off the coaster, make sure they're safe. Well, that's what I'm thinking. So I'm gonna put a fence around here, and once I put that fence down, it gives you a little differentiation between the grass and the path cover color I used, but it also just makes it feel a little bit safer. Now this fence is from the brand new Pirate mod set, and when I say mod set, it doesn't change the game; it just adds parts. It's Pirate mod part theme, and it's got a couple really cool things in it, including animated cannons and gold chests that open and close, or static. You can have both. Piles of gold. It's got a lot of neat things, but it has these fences that are made to go along ships. And the ships that you can make in it aren't great because he doesn't really have a bow piece that you can make the bow of a ship, but you could still get that theme on there in a building and make it kind of ship-like. And I'm sure he'll add some more stuff later on, but he's got some great, impressive pieces. And this fence is just one of them. I really like it. It's recolorable, and you can see it works great in this theme, doesn't it? And the ride statistics on this one came out to be a low 30s, which is perfect. It's exciting enough to keep the kids interested, but not so much that it's going to intimidate them. Now here's the one we did a little while ago. And this I put on the other side. I decided, you know what? Let's do that intermediate for the little bit older kids, or maybe the kids that thought the other one was just a little too mamby-pamby for them. And yes, I just used the term mamby-pamby. So on this one, I'm using a new set that just came out, Building Set 2. You're going to see a little pop-up here in a minute. I put a pop-up in here, and just to let you know the building set that I was using for the building. And unfortunately, when I put it in the wrong place, and it comes up when I start adding another mod set. But just know this is Building Set 2, just came out, and it adds these clapboard walls, but it also adds these roofs. And the neat thing about these roofs is they come in 3 different flavors. They have, low elevation like these, a medium elevation, meaning it's a steeper roof, and a high elevation or very steep roof. Now on this one, I'm using the low elevation, and I'm using just a regular angle piece at the top because I didn't want the clapboard at the top. I wanted it to be more flat. Now this is the neat thing about this set. You see these are eaves, and there's a set for there's 2 sets of each eave, and then these are fascia, I think they're called, soffit, excuse me. These are the soffit. Soffit goes along the flat edge of the roof. Eaves go along the part that goes up and down. And then these little corner pieces to match the eaves and the soffits together. One thing you will notice is that when you use these, there's 2 sets. There's one for the going up from the lower right to the upper left, and one for going from the lower left to the upper right. And when you put one on the angled roof, you can use that same piece on the opposite side of the other end of the building. In other words, if you're looking at the building from the front, the closest one to you on the left is going to be the farthest one to you on the right. And so just play around with it. If it doesn't fit, try the other one. You'll get used to it pretty quick. The same thing goes for the little corner pieces. Now here I'm adding the roofs up top, and I'm noticing that because it's only 1 deep, basically, I can't use these roof pieces. So I go back to the one of the older sets and just get this 1-piece roof and just put it on there. And it just takes me a minute to get it to fit, but that looks pretty good. Now, I just wanted to make this look a little bit like a train station. And here I'm going ahead and putting these, part of this building set was these I forget what you call them, awnings. And these awnings go over the roof and give it that real, a little bit of a Main Street feel, but it works well here on the train station too. And you notice using the original building set windows, I can go ahead and just put the windows on top of the clapboard, and you can't see through these windows, they're opaque, but they go right on top of the clapboard, so you don't have to use the clapboards that have pre-window holes in them if you don't want them. I put a couple signs here just to finish it out. I didn't make a sign in Photoshop yet, so we're just going to use my pretzel barn sign. And I think I put one more sign in the left-hand corner. But I was trying to decide what color to make this. And we've got the orange on the other side. And I thought, let's make this a dark green. I just chose some random colors of green that I thought looked good together. And just made it. And when you start out, it looks like, wow, I'm not sure if I like that. But once it's completely done, I think it looks pretty good. Now, of course, with your buildings, make it whatever color you want. The roof, just make it a darker green. Could have made it a gray or a black. And my classic misclicks, there they are. I do that all the time. But so I wanted to also accent the windows. I noticed the windows just weren't looking very well. So I went ahead and I decided to go ahead and make them kind of a lime green for the windows. Give it a little bit more of an accent. And I'm also, you're going to notice in a minute, I'm going to put some a yellow stripe along the bottom just to give it a little more, I guess you would call it a little more color diversity. Make it pop a little. You need some contrast. Otherwise, it just starts looking like, you just took the paintbrush and painted with whatever happened to be on it. Now, one thing I did discover is some building parts, the first color is the outside, and some building parts that are a little older, like these roofs up top, the first color is that little triangle pitch piece, and the roof itself is actually the second color on your color palette. And it's frustrating because you're painting the whole thing and it's all looking good, and then you get to these and the colors are reversed. And the easiest way I found to do this is if there's only two colors in the piece you're doing, go ahead and copy those colors to the third and fourth position on your brush palette. And then you can always go to them and put them in whichever you want without having to go refine them again. You just copy and paste the 6-digit RGB hex value, and you can put it in either the first or the second place. And that way you just pick the colors and you can just reverse them without having to go back 2 or 3 times to make sure you have the right numbers. Of course, I'm going to make the track green, but here's where I decided to do something really interesting. I had no idea what I was going to do at this point, and I thought, you know what? A new set just came out called Iron Horse. You might hear me call it the train set. It's basically just trains, iron horses. And I thought, let's make this a train themed. Kids love trains, right? So I just put these down here. Oh, there's that pop-up I was telling you about. I put these trains down here from the Iron Horse set just to see if they fit, and they fit great. So the set has a couple different pieces to build the track. First is the base piece, where the rocks are down to hold the track. Then I put the track down. Then I put the train on the track. And now the trains are bigger than the actual trains in the game, but I'll tell you, they look really good, especially as scenery. Now, they don't move. They're just scenery pieces, but they look great. And there's several different cars, and you even get a caboose. That looks pretty cool, doesn't it? I really like it. It's a water tower also comes with the set. I decided to put a piece of a bridge here, and what I wanted to do is put something up a little high because the track's up off the ground here, and so I wanted to put something up a little high, so I figured I'll just put a piece of a bridge here, and then I'll put a train car on top of that, and it worked out great. I put the bridge down. I put the track stops here, which are included in the set. It's amazing. They thought of just about everything, and then just put a passenger car there just for some extra scenery. Then I was looking around, and I love the look, but I got this empty spot, and I couldn't figure out what to put here. Then I got an idea. I'm just going to put down like a pallet. and just put some miscellaneous stuff that you might see lying around a train yard, just junk, basically. Got some oil barrels. I'm going to put some crates and boxes. It just fills out that little corner where I really wanted everything to be complete. I didn't want it to look like there was an empty space here that shouldn't be empty. Got a guy wandering around here. Yeah, I had a train with an exit that didn't go anywhere, so I've got about 50 people wandering around. We'll have to fix that a little later. These are just green sacks that came with some recent props that were released. I just love it. But look at that. That is great looking. Now, let's move on to the final part of this. Oh, first, I almost forgot. I put smoke in here. Got to have the train making smoke. Let's move on to this building I made. I just wanted to make a place where the kids could go and buy candy and ice cream and all the little stuff that parents have to buy kids at a theme park. If you've ever taken a kid to a theme park, if you've ever been a kid at a theme park, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you want to get the popcorn and the hot dogs and everything, but then there's that store that has all the little tchotchkes, and you gotta have them. So I wanted a building that kind of enveloped around itself a little bit. I just didn't want a flat building, so that's why I went for this shape here. Again, using building set 1, or excuse me, building set 2 with these clapboards, and I'm going to use the same roofs, although I do end up using a higher pitched roof for part of it, just to make it have a little variety in the pitch of the roof. I like things to be a little interesting to look at. And we've done this part before as far as building the interior. I just put some candy and ice cream shops in here. Also put bathrooms. One of the things I seem to find in my park is people are constantly walking around having to go to the bathroom. I don't know what it is, but the peeps in Parkitect have tiny flippin' bladders. They go to the bathroom, they walk around, they get a drink, and they have to pee. So I've started to put a lot of bathrooms around my park, and I just hide them wherever I can. And so the other thing about this building is you'll notice on the first floor, I left the windows. I used the ones with the windows that are already in them. Remember, I told you didn't have to. Well, you don't. But I'm going to leave those windows open so that you can actually see through them. And the reason is I want you to be able to see in the building a little bit, make it a little more alive. Now, because I knew what color I wanted for this, I pre-colored it over in the item picker. You can just change the color, clicking on the color square. I did that because I knew I wanted the floor to be this grayish blue. Then I got to looking at these benches and I thought those really don't look good. So I put down these chairs, which are recolorable. I didn't like the first blue I chose, so I darkened it up a little bit just to make them look a little bit better. I think I missed one set of chairs, although I might have come back. No, I came back and got them. So I think that looks a little better. Maybe I could go a little bit darker on the blue, but it looks okay. Now we're going to add the second half wall. And I love to keep my first story 1.5 units tall. I find that one unit just doesn't look quite right. And now I'm going to start looking at the roof. Now we're going to use these same roofs we used before. Go up, make a match. Just go up to the next level, make a match, hold down the Alt key, and you can stretch them right along. But this is where I was trying to decide what I wanted to do with these middles here. Last time I used this other piece, and I'll be honest, I looked around. There are just no other pieces that really work right now if you have a roof that doesn't quite match up. This is the best way I've found to do it. You might be able to use the super high-pitched roofs to do it, but that would look a little silly in my opinion. In this center section, remember I told you I wanted some diversity here. So this center section, I wanted to just make this a little higher. And then I decided, it looks okay, but let's go ahead and bring it out and make this front cutout actually under the roof. And I really think that made all the difference. It just makes it look a little more interesting. And here we're going to put a pitched roof going the other way with the pitch going to the left and the right as opposed to front and back. And I really like the way this turned out. Now, because of the angles I'm using here, the red roofs won't fit. You had to use the blue ones, which is the second tier. You'll notice here I'm using the angled pieces to fill in the sides. That's the one thing that I love about this set. On the other sets, they're walled off on the sides, but the problem is if you go up 2 levels high, you could see where the roof line is, and so you get all these lines on the side of your building. With this, you just fill them in with wall sections, and you don't get any of that Z-buffer fighting where you get those little wavy lines because there's a piece of the roof sticking through the wall of the roof above it or below it. So we're just filling this in with walls and half walls, just getting everything solid. And now we're going to use this. Now we're going to use this this roof again. I tried the red ones and quickly realized, yeah, that don't fit. So I went to the blues. The blues fit perfectly. The blues are a 45-degree angle roof. And I still have that same problem I had before. So I go back to my tried and true. After 2 or 3 days of using this, I decided this is tried and true. And I just kind of colored all the roofs just to see how it looked. And I like it. It looks really good. And again, we're going to use these eaves. Again, if the eave fits on the left-hand front, it's going to fit on the right-hand back. And we just click on through. And the reason there are different ones is because if you notice on the eaves, the front of it has a little piece coming down, so you can't see through it. If you use the wrong one, not only doesn't it fit within the grid because of the way it's designed, but the front doesn't have an actual piece on the front, so it looks like just a hollow tube. And I think that's just a limitation of the game engine, the way it was written, that you have to have these separate because you can't have pieces hanging off into the next piece, especially if you don't use some of the mods I use, like the no collisions mod, where I can have things overlapping. And again, we're just doing the corners here to match up the fascia. And then just do the front. And I decided to go all the way across, and I think that looks really, really good. What do you think so far? I think it looks great. Now, I wanted to get rid of this see this gap here? You have the eave coming off, and then there's nothing on that other piece. I did this, and I thought, well, that looks okay, but let me try something else. So I decided to try to just overlap this roof. Again, you know I have the no collisions mod. That looks 100 times better. Look at that. You just have to, you can't hold alt. You just got to manually get it in there, steady hands, and click at the right time. But that looks a lot better than trying to do something, with the wooden rods and the wooden poles and stuff. It just didn't look good. I was hoping I could use these right through the new piece, but they don't quite fit. You see, the angle's just not quite right. Those roofs are actually at like 47 degrees, and the roof is only 45 degrees. So we're going to have to do the same thing with these two. But you notice I'm just putting these in. Pick the other one to go to the other side. Then you pick the soffit. And then the little corner pieces. See if it goes on that side. It goes in the opposite corner over here. Pick the next one. Goes on this part. And goes to the opposite corner. I had a lot of trouble getting this one to fit because of the angle I was at. Goes on the opposite corner here. And then we got to fix this as well. Trying to get the height right before I let go of the Alt key. And remember, as long as you can overlap these, because as long as you use the same color and you get the overlap really close, you're not going to see a seam, or at least not much of one. It's going to look fine. That looks really good. Now, we haven't fixed the left roof yet. Now I'm just putting in the regular windows, and I just wanted to put in, now these windows are the ones like we used in the last one. You can't see through them, but you got to have the windows, otherwise the building just looks like a barn. It just looks a little strange. So even though this building doesn't really have a second story on it, you want it to look like it does. Just like in a real theme park, there is no second story in a lot of the buildings, but they all look a lot taller than they are inside. When you go down in Disney Main Street, Disney World and Disneyland, when you go down Main Street, the buildings are 3-4 stories tall, but there's only one story when you go inside. All the rest is probably storage and empty fascia. So here we're going to put in just just the stiles in the windows, just the wooden stiles. We're not putting in the actual glass because we want to be able to see in, just to give it that lived-in look, so you can see the people walking around inside from the front. Now here it is finished. Added the awnings again and added a sign, a little fountain out front with some flowers and a tree, but and I also fixed the roof on the left. But what do you think? I think that looks absolutely great. Yeah, I really appreciate each and every one of you watching the videos. I appreciate all the comments. I really appreciate the subscriptions. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget, we're coming to Steam. Until next time, I hope each and every one of you has a good one.